Hello, friends. This is Deepak. And as you guys know, we are preparing for our Wealth Summit that is happening just in about a month now, only 30 days left. So if you have not registered for the Wealth Summit, please go to sanjeevcpa.com and register for this wonderful summit. It's a full day event and we have a lot of experts. And one of the experts I want to introduce today to you is Gopi. Now, Gopi is an attorney right here locally in Fremont, and he focuses more on corporate world. So if you are starting a new business and maybe you already have an established company and you want him to take a look at your operating agreement, maybe you want to take a look at your security policies, maybe some contracts that you have with vendors. Maybe you are acquiring a new company or maybe you're buying a new property. So all sorts of reasons why you would need somebody like Gopi to help you out with. So I'm going to talk to Gopi today and kind of learn a little bit about what kind of mistakes people make by let's just say not seeking a proper advice, because believe me or not, that happens quite a bit. And I think that is one aspect that differentiates somebody who is a newcomer in the field versus a professionals. You know, when you go out there and you read news or you flip through those magazines and you see stories of successful people, one of the things you will find is those successful people are not alone. They have a team of experts guiding them through, because one little mistake can cost you a lot. So Gopi, I mean, you do this whole day long, right? So let me start, like, for example, one of the most common things that happens in Bay Area is starting new business. Everybody is starting new business on regular basis, right? What are some of the mistakes people make when starting a new business?
Absolutely, Deepak bhai, thank you so much. And a shout out for Wealth Summit. People who have not signed up for it, please go ahead and sign up. There are discount codes and everything. If you need anything, just send an email to me or to Deepak or anybody, and we'll get that taken care of. Now, coming back to your point, Deepak, in terms of starting a business and all the pitfalls. While a lot of it may seem easy, we're living in Silicon Valley, the heart of Silicon Valley, where maybe the innovation is the highest if you look at it in the whole world. And there are a lot of people here who are starting companies probably on a daily basis, if not on an hourly basis. What I find most people do incorrectly is they don't choose the right entity that would actually meet their current and also future business goals. So that is a big mistake. People just go to, the standard, Rocket Lawyer or one of these websites. They just sign up and they're done. But there's a lot more involved than just doing that. And especially if there are multiple parties involved, it becomes very, very complex. And imagine if that party is not available, or if they're not competent, if there is some incapacity issues, then the other party's spouse is going to step in and they're going to have completely different view than what their spouse had. So these are all the complications, and also they don't follow the corporate formalities. The corporate formalities are a must to follow, and as technologists and entrepreneurs, your job is to focus on developing products or creating the services, solving a problem, so to speak. And it's better off if you leave the legal and other side for the experts in that field so that they can take care of that business. And any failure to adhere to the corporate formalities could expose your liability beyond what you can actually imagine. So, like Deepak was hinting, it is imperative that you seek a qualified attorney's help right from the get-go, so that everything can be set up and optimized and then maintained for your business needs.
Now, one of the common things I see in Bay Area is a lot of people are buying interest in other companies. You know, maybe somebody had a restaurant and they heard about a restaurant, they like the food there, and they say, look, I'm willing to invest, let's open up another branch. Or maybe there's a pizza shop, right? And hey, let's open up another pizza shop because it's a successful business. Grocery stores, I see quite a bit happening with those. I see it with liquor stores, even trucking companies, even in services businesses. Maybe somebody has, let's just say, a home care service, or maybe they have a child care services. So somebody already has a company set up, and then somebody new goes in and they try to invest. And believe me or not, I have seen so many people just write a check, right? What kind of advice do you have for all these people?
Yes, absolutely, Deepak. I think you hit the nail on the head. And this is where somebody needs to understand securities laws, both California and at federal level, and also understand the financial and the business risks that they're investing in. Most of the people do the same thing that you mentioned. They just write a check. They go by word of mouth, leap of faith, all kinds of cliches that are available. But what they fail to understand is what they're actually getting in return. Is it, what kind of equity are they getting in? What are all the profit sharings that they can get, and who is going to actually make sure the person who is promising them some return is actually doing their job? And all of these need to be protected. And if something happens, the whole investment that people have earned, their blood and sweat money, is going down the drain. So all these, especially when you're doing restaurants and grocery stores, etc., you have to be very careful, because they could fall under the franchisor laws of California. So you have to make sure that you're adhering to those rules and regulations, and also getting proper value in return for your investment at that time. Obviously, nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can predict what will happen. But legally, you need to make sure that you have adequate provisions for either assignment, transfers, sales, etc., of these either licenses or of the securities, so that your investment is protected for the investment horizon that you guys are investing in. And most of these investments would be deemed as very high risk investments. And a lot of investors will not know or appreciate what that means. That actually means, if you're, say, investing $100,000 in a restaurant or some chain, in 2 or 3 years, you may not get your money back. You may not get anything back. So that is one of the unfortunate realities. So, what I do is I help out my clients in in walking them through the entire process, doing all the legal steps that are required, so they have adequate protections set up. In that way, even if they make a mistake, it is rectified, and then we calculate prior to everything, what should be the risk mitigation strategy, versus writing a check, investing it, and then after 3 years, people then call their attorneys and then say, oh, is there any way I can recover some money back? And that
And
happens every day, actually, Deepak. Go ahead.
no, what I was going to say is not, I think risk goes even beyond that, right? Like, for example, I think most people are familiar with investing in equity markets, let's say in Apple or Facebook, some of these big companies. And, they think that the worst can happen is they lose their equity. But when you're investing in private business, that is not necessarily true. As you become a partner in a business, you could potentially also take on risk that you were not previously aware of. And because you didn't really understood the paperwork, you didn't understand what kind of risk you're taking. I mean, your personal residence could be at risk, your bank account could be at risk, your stocks could be at risk. I mean, you could be adding on a lot of risk, right?
Absolutely, Deepak. That is absolutely correct. With the public markets, your liability is limited to your investment. That is true. But like you mentioned, these are not public markets. These are the markets that are non-public or private, if you will. And any equity into that, depending upon the quality and the character of the equity, your liability, that means you invested and you don't know that your liability could now encompass your personal residence, your personal property worldwide, and any of the, any securities interests that you have, anything. They could go after all these. And you could also be, there are some tort liabilities that you could be hit with that you're completely unaware of. So, I would say there's probably, limited liability in the public markets and maybe close to like unlimited liability in the private markets.
Very well said. And look, I'm not bringing this up to scare anyone. I mean, honestly, I love small businesses. I mean, I think you can make a lot of money in those. If you have a good friend who is doing a good business, you should support him. I mean, you know him better than anybody else. So I'm not against investing with your friends and family members who are running good business. All I'm saying is don't walk into it blindly. Understand your risk, talk to someone like Gopi so you understand what you're getting into. Because see, when we get into a business with a friend, we're emotionally involved. And we're not so emotionally involved when we're doing business with a big Fortune 500 company. We tend to overlook a lot of things that you would naturally pay attention to if that person was not your friend. So it kind of comes in quite handy when you have this let's just say another person's point of view who is not involved in the transaction and tell you, hey, look, you're taking on this liability, you're taking on this risk. Here are the ways you can mitigate it. Definitely don't do this. This is something you can get away with. There are a lot of gray area in small business. So you want to understand where the gray area is, where the red line is, and where should you play your game. So that's why I'm bringing up all these questions. Now, in addition to small businesses, a lot of people don't really see this as a business, but they are in business because what they're doing is they're investing in real estate. Maybe they're investing in commercial real estate, maybe even in rental properties, maybe in those short-term rentals, something that people put up on Airbnb and other websites out there. Sometimes, or actually many times these days, I would say, with all the recent changes that happen, is people are putting their backyard on a rent, right? Like they got a little chateau going on there, a couple 100 square foot, and they're generating rent income. Now, these are all great. There's great ways to make money, but once again, they also bring in a lot of liability. They also bring in a lot of risk. So if you don't mind, maybe talk a little bit about that, is why it is important for them to speak with a competent attorney when they're getting involved in these transactions. Like what kind of mistakes they can potentially make, which can be avoided by having some sort of proper structure in place in advance.
Right, absolutely, Deepak. One of the primary mistake, especially in the real estate, is, what are you actually investing in? Are you investing in that person? Are you investing actually in the property? Are you doing a limited partnership type of agreements? So you have to be very careful in terms of how you are going into this investment. One. And second thing, real estate is very high risk, and you need to understand that as well. The people that are going into and make sure that your liabilities are limited. So you need to figure out what type of strategy you need so that you definitely invest, but invest making sure that your liability is as limited as possible. And then your return, obviously, whatever return you will get it. There's no cap on the returns. So those are the things that I would definitely advise people who are going into the real estate. And if they're in state in California, it's different. If they're a little out of state, then it is quite different as well. So a lot of people that I see invest money in some of the schemes, like you said, they're either personal contacts or non-personal contacts or professional contacts. And at the end of 1 or 2 years, they're promised that, they're, buying this property and they're going to and renovate it and rent it out, get a higher value through that. But in few years, I would see that none of that has materialized. And then they don't know what, obviously they're not getting their investment back. And they have no and then it so happens that almost their rights to even fight for any salvage value is almost limited, um, and or has been preempted by other people, who have a higher claim of right. So these are definitely the things that people should watch out. If you're going into real estate, please understand that it is very high risk, and definitely get involved with some real estate lawyer. I happen to practice in the real estate space as well, who understands not only the legal aspects but also understands the business aspects, so that you can make a well-informed, good decision for the investment that you're putting in.
And I think so we talked about a little bit about business owners, and I think that's business owners, I think that the easiest one, who understand they need some help with the legal aspects. We talk a little bit about real estate. Real estate people often do not understand it, because I think they think that buying real estate is easy. You just go get a mortgage, close the deal, and move on. But as you mentioned, they come with some liabilities, some risk, and you need to understand them and put a plan in place to mitigate those risks. But I think there's another category of people, Gopiji, who almost, I would say, majority of that time completely ignore the importance of risk and liabilities, and that is service professionals. These are our good doctors, these are our contractors, these are our people who are on 1099, these are the people who are providing some sort of service. A lot of people are building products. So a lot of those people are out there doing business without having any understanding of the legal aspects that they should really care about. So maybe address them a little bit. Maybe somebody's thinking about starting something and they get inspired and do the things the right way.
Right, absolutely. And um, as people in the service industry are very typical of not seeking legal help. I'm saying maybe 80% of them don't, 20% of them probably do in some form or the other. The 80% of people think that, oh, I can do whatever I want. If we can, go to a Rocket Lawyer, one of these things, start up our company. And if they are professionals, then, there are rules in California, that you have to be a professional limited liability company. So they do not understand all these consequences, and they go ahead and do something, and they're in business, and usually nothing happens. But when some problem arises, that is when they're going to face the biggest legal battle, because they now have a record of the past that they have done things right, wrong, or otherwise, the legal things. And then now, somebody is taking a litigation action against them. So they have to be very careful. And service professionals get embroiled usually. You mentioned 1099. So you need to be careful to follow the independent contractor rules and regulations so that the employer and the employee, both of them are protected. Uh, and most of them in the service industry are probably doing this, and maybe maybe there are special licensing requirements for some of these, and most of these people are not aware that they would need special licensing requirement. So they may be practicing it, per se illegally. So the service people need to obviously seek a competent attorney's help. And if these service professionals want to expand, there are a couple of dentist offices and they all want to merge together. Right, that's a great example, and most of them have been operating independently before. So obviously, at that time, you definitely need to go to a lawyer to make sure you're getting the fair share, and also to make sure the transaction is done correctly. For typical, service professionals who are actually putting themselves, in with the clients, in with everybody's to provide services to them on either a single tier or a multi-tier structure. They need to be very careful, and usually what would happen is they would end up working and not getting paid, for a few months, or a few payroll cycles, whatever that cadence can be. The recovery of that is going to be very difficult, and sometimes possibly not. So service professionals should be very, very mindful. Please, if you're starting something in the services industry, great, seek legal advice so they can walk you through the steps. And not only legal advice, I would also go one step further and say, obviously seek good accountants, like, Sanjeev Gupta, CPA, one of them that I know, so that you have those things in place as well. So you have a legal structure in place, you have a good accounting and finance structure in place, so that everything else runs smoothly for you as you are taking off with your business.
Yeah, and I think one of the challenge, Gopiji, we have is, most of us are first generation Americans. We are just not familiar with the US system yet. A lot of stuff when you grow up in a country, you learn by default because your grandparents, your family members, your uncles, they kind of teach you what to do, what not to do. But most of us don't know, and I think we need to really recognize that we just don't know. And when we don't know, the easiest way to know is ask somebody who does know. So that's why all of you guys watching today, if you are starting a new business, if you are getting into real estate transaction, perhaps you're buying a franchise, or maybe you're joining a new job that is requiring you to sign a lot of contracts. Who knows what you got written in those contracts, right? I mean, you're so excited that, hey, look, I'm going to get $300,000 job. I'm going to get so many stock options. I'm going to have so much bonus. This is great. I'm just going to go sign my life away. But do you really even know what's in those paperwork? It's a good idea to just get a quick consultation and get some advice what to do, what not to do. That way you set yourself for the right thing in future, basically. Any particular advice you would like to give, Gopi, to our all the people who are perhaps not coming to Wealth Summit? And I'm saying that because a lot of you guys watching are coming to the Wealth Summit, and Wealth Summit going to be excited. Gopi going to be there a whole day long. So I cannot take another 12 hours from him and ask him all the questions I want to ask. And quite honestly, I don't even have energy because I'm busy preparing for Wealth Summit. But you can. Each one of you guys can come to Wealth Summit, and Gopi going to be there from early morning till late night, and he doesn't charge you for the consultation fees that day. That's awesome, right? If you go to an attorney, they're charging 300, 500,000, 2,000, and I don't know how. I'm sure they probably go even more higher hourly rate, but you get all of that for free that day, right? Just come on in, talk to Gopi and get your questions answered. just make sure you write them down and, get them answered. And obviously we will have other professionals. We'll have a financial planner there. We are having an immigration team coming to the Wealth Summit. We will have obviously our tax team. We have about 30 tax professionals. I'm a tax professional. Sanjeev is a CPA. And then we have another 30 people at the office. All of us going to be there. So you can ask your tax questions to us. We will have real estate people, mortgage people. I mean, all sorts of people that you can network with and get your questions answered. So Gopiji, thank you so much for spending your time today. And I hope we are able to motivate some people who would otherwise ignore not so common legal advice. And please don't go to Facebook and Google to get those answers, because trust me, I mean, sometimes I am guilty of that too. I'll go out there and I'll type in the question and get an answer. But the good thing is I know a thing or two. So when the answer come, I know it's a wrong answer. So the problem is many of you guys don't know that's a wrong answer. And you will think it's a right answer and take it and take an action based on that action. Now, Gopiji, if somebody wants to get hold of you, what do they do?
So they can email me or they can call me. And like most lawyers, typically they provide a 15-minute free consultation where they will listen to your problem, perhaps not give you any legal advice, because the legal advice will only start once a legal service agreement contract is written. Then there will be an attorney-client relationship established. So you can, people can reach out to me. My email is gopijdmba@gmail.com, or you can call me on my number. It's 510-896-0223, or you can email Deepak, Sanjeev, anybody with any questions that you may have. I understand, Wealth Summit is a great thing, and you need to be there, but sometimes it's not physically possible for people to get there, even though they're very enthusiastic about it. And for them, either email and other options are available. I don't know if Deepak has a facility where people can then zoom in and then maybe ask questions there. You may not get your answers real time, but somebody will review those questions and get back to you in a few days.
So there you go, guys. That's Gopi. If you have a question, like he said, you can definitely give him a call, send him an email, or you can reach out to me. You can join my WhatsApp group. And then if you have a question, most of the times, if simple stuff I can answer for you, if it's a little bit more complicated, I need to refer you to Gopi, then I'll do so. Or if you want to reach out to him directly, you're welcome to do that. But like Gopi said, you need to have he just doesn't have enough time to just chit chat. Even with me, it took me almost a month to get him on the call so I could ask him some basic questions. I'm a very busy man. What can I say? Attorneys. So thank you so much, Gopiji. We are 1 month away from Wealth Summit. So we are looking forward to seeing you and your team there, and have a wonderful time in the meanwhile.
Absolutely. Great times, Deepak. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.